Right. We are live. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. Yay! Haven't had playback. Haven't had playback audio. Lovely stuff. But my god, my nose is so bunged up right now. But it's like my cold has gone away. So I've got nothing but just this blocked nose where it's like any nasal breathing that you have sounds like the most bubbliest concoction of sadness ever, right? And it's just like if you're in a public place, like on a train or something, and you're just breathing through your nose, and it's all this bubbly, snotty sound. It's just like, bro, holy cow, Jesus Christ, not good, not good, not good. But I'm feeling all right. I'm feeling all right. But we are back. We are back, and we have got a few things to discuss. I just figured that today perhaps I should do a stream slightly earlier on, as a few relatively key things to talk about here today, this afternoon, and perhaps maybe some more interesting bits that will break later on tonight. So perhaps you'll get two streams slash uploads from me, and today. This afternoon, the early batch of the news, the early batches of the news. We've got HOJLAND. Now, some people will say a deal close. There's not deal close. We haven't even covered first base with the first bid yet, the first official bid. And I say deal close because I'm talking about in sort of perspective. I'm talking about from a perspective where we're talking about what United want to do is they want to speed up these deals and they want to get these deals done as soon as possible. They want to get business completed as fast as possible. So, on the context of things, a deal close is probably systematically right in retrospect to the time framing, right? So, once we get a first bid in, and if it's around sort of a compromise, perhaps you'll get the agreement. And more importantly, the player who supposedly we've got the terms agreed, it's like, as I like to say, a transfer that completes itself. So once you get the compromise between the two clubs and the deal fee and payment structure gets agreed, everything else seems to complete itself pretty much instantly as soon as you've got, covered first base. So in that respect, I probably would say that the deal is thereabouts close. We've also got to discuss here that GLAZERS, Bloomberg have spoken once more that they expect a decision to be made very, 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 very soon about what they want to do with the club. Are they going to sell to one of the two bidders, or are they going to keep a hold of the club? And I would probably look at it from a position of, well, if they're going to decide, it's probably most likely going to be a sale, just simply because, based off of what we're all looking at or what we're able to see, is no one's really managed to get into the pocket of the Glazers quite just yet, because it was what as much as it's sort of information that we've seen some minority bidders getting into position to put forth their offers for minority investments and all of that. Any interest on that department has been shut down quite swiftly, and they've not really had the same level of inclusion as it would seem in sort of getting deep, like knee deep into the deal with Rain Group. So if there is, I guess if it's that the Glazers will decide to come out to say, well, we're actually going to keep a hold of the club, but we're getting minority investment. My big question is, who is it that's actually coming in with minority investment? I'll be a bit surprised if it turns out to be Sergeant Ratcliffe. I'll be very, very surprised. Um, but perhaps maybe the Elliott hedge fund or someone like that um, have managed to find a sweet spot. Maybe that, I mean, we can't really rule out any possibilities at the moment, given the circumstances that these Glazers, they absolutely just want to take everyone for a ride, and they don't even know what they want themselves, as it would seem, because of obviously family dispute. Four siblings want to sell, they want to go. Two siblings want to keep a hold of the club and stay. So there's ongoing family dispute, as it would seem. Um, but we'll have a look in to see if there's any more information on that. On that front, we've also got confirmation that Onana will be jetting in to England today, so he'll be landing supposedly about 7 p.m. ish is what they estimate. So probably enough time to run some medical tests on the same evening, quite possible, and then the game against Olympique Lyon is played tomorrow. I think that's a 2 p.m. kickoff. I'll be trying to see if I can do another watch along for that. Fingers crossed I can. I know the last watch along was a bit difficult to keep it going as smoothly as I'd hope for it to be, because me obviously not knowing where to watch any of these games, I was having to stream hop because everything was getting slapped everywhere and it was a nightmare. But anyways, also, before I forget, Alex Tellers has had some links to Saudi Arabia, so we might get some outgoings finally at long last, and to our first team as well. And Saudi look once again as though they're going to be the saviors. They're going to be raveling up some cash for us so we can redistribute in acquiring replacement signings. And I say replacement, I actually mean improvements. We want to make improvements to our squads, not sign like for likes. So fingers crossed that the players we do end up recruiting with said sale money, if we do get sales and outgoings of whatnot, that we actually sign players who improve the team. Because everyone's saying, well, fantastic, we're signing left, right, and centre. We'll sign that player, we'll sign that player, we'll sign that player. I think everyone's sort of a little bit too comfortable about the prospect that none of these players will flop in any capacity. There's still very much a realistic possibility that one of these key signings ends up being a flop. It's possible, right? There's error. There's a little grey zone. There's always grey zones with transfers as to how successful that player is going to be when they do come in, because there's a system that they've got to or conform to in Ten Hag style of play. And as well as that, just in terms of how they approach their squad roles, their responsibilities, do they rise to the challenges? It's kind of like a sink or swim. Sometimes the shirt can swallow a player up. Sometimes the player thrives in the shirt. It's the making of the player. So, yeah, these things can happen. It's all possible. Fingers crossed that it's not going to bite us in the arse at the worst time possible. Probably the worst season for it to happen, considering everything's so threadbare at the moment. But yes, let's delve into things a little bit deeper. But yes, supposedly it's going to be Al Nasser that are planning to sort out deals with Manchester United for Saudi Arabia, for Alex Tellers. But yes, fingers crossed they also take Eric Bailly as well, because that's someone else who could disappear. That we can take I mean, what realistically can we ask for? Probably between 5 and 10 million would be a fair takings, I guess, based off of his wages and how little clubs really are able to afford the wages of Eric Bailly, and I probably doubt that any club can negotiate with Eric Bailly's agents to negotiate pay cuts just so that they can actually sign the player and that he fits into finances. Also here from Fabrizio Romano confirming with Atalanta's asking price for HOJLAND about 65 to 70 million euros. They don't want three MUFC players included in the deal, so they don't want anything to do with Manchester United players, as it would seem, to be included in the deal. They just want to take cash. They're not interested in no player exchanges, nothing like that at all. And I covered this yesterday with whether we think that 65 million is a fair asking price for Rasmus HOJLAND. Personally, I said no chance of him being worth that. But my compromise to an excessive asking price solely sits with the manager and what he intends to build, because there's the X factor of Manchester United Football Club is Erik ten Hag and what he opts to do with the club's investments, with where they put the money, with the players that they put the trust in, that they put the faith in, that they bring in and say, so now we've bought you this player, now it's time for you to basically do your day's work. Do your day's work and fit these players in, get them to play the system, get them to play your style, and most importantly, go win games of football. Go win games of football, and even more so importantly than that, go win some trophies. Because that is the core principle, one of the core principles, not just of Manchester United Football Club, but for any elite club at the pinnacle of world football, right? And whether people say we are there or not, the aim of elite sport is to win. And that is the be all and end all. It's the most simple concept that you should always be aiming to push and back your team to be to thrive, to end up going up against the competition and to best them. And when you fall short, your demands are to constantly expect better and say, look, if you didn't do it this year, we expect you to do it next year. If you don't do it next year, it's got to be some form of punishments. Here we are. Philip Wilson, big ups to you. Do you think HOJLAND is the answer for number 9? I think in the real world, it's probably a case for that. In our case, um, we're just going to have to see as to what happens. Because I mean, the profile of player as like a young 20-year-old striker from a sort of upper end of the Serie A table team in Atalanta that occasionally competes in Europe, you would say, well, is that the guy that you bring in such an early stage and say that he is the goal scorer, the marquee number 9? When you think of United's attack, that's the guy you think of. Personally, I would want there to be a more senior figure in the number 9's position, like the actual, like the stable of the Manchester United's attack. But given the way the market is, perhaps Eric sees a different way to handle it. Maybe he's thinking that Rasmus has got a personality about him where he can thrive being the focal point of the team. Perhaps I think it's going to be interesting to see what idea in mind, like the vision, the picture that Erik ten Hag sees with recruiting someone with the profile that HOJLAND has. I've seen also as well with what's her name, Beth from the United stand, saying that the goals ratio or the goal contribution ratios are similar to Marcus Rashford, which was sort of our top goal scorer last season. My reply to that is, yeah, he's in Syria. He's in Syria. It's not the Premier League. Syria is different. That's a different level, and people need to sort of remember that key factor. Um, I still have a feeling Kane later on the window as well as HOJLAND. Well, if we are, I'll tell you what. If we keep spinning or pushing the narrative, right, that we to sign HOJLAND, uh, that's like the last signing we can make before we have to, sell to buy and all of that nonsense. I'll tell you what, if we keep pushing that narrative, right, and we get to the end of the window and then out of nowhere, the asking price for Harry Kane, which I'd assume perhaps might be more public by that point, that United slam dunk the asking price for Harry Kane on the table. It's like, there it is. Take it or leave it. Take it or leave it, Voldemort businessman. Take it or leave it. I'm just gonna be sitting there just like perplexed. Like, why didn't you do this earlier? What? So you don't have the money, but I'll tell you what. When there's a striker or a player at Kane's level, second he becomes available. Oh, sorry, I forgot that we had money issues. Yeah. Anyways, we've got a player, right? We got the player. I'll tell you what. That will royally tick me off. But there is potential. There is potential. But I think it's one of those. The situation, how it develops, how the window develops over time. Because I'll tell you what, getting late on in the window, the last thing I want to see us doing is doing these late deals in the transfer window, because if anything like last season's is to go off of, it means trouble. Late deals can mean trouble because it means you're not fully prepared for your season, but you're also having to play catch up just to get up to speed in the league. You're having to play catch up. You're not primed and ready before kicking a ball. In my opinion, they simply lack incompetency in the transfer market, and going by recent windows, we always get late deals. Exactly. 100%. And this is the thing. There's always seemingly this different reason every time when it's early in the window. Oh, we can't do this because of that reason. We can't do this because of that reason. And there's always this sort of narrative, and I guess it's John Murtough. The focus has been a lot more on John Murtough, specifically him this window. And I think there's a lot of response to that. There's been a lot of response to that sort of focus where he's almost like, oh, the focus is on me. And it's on me really early. It's from the get-go. Right. I want to brush some of this responsibility off my back real quick before we get too far in this window and say, oh, but clubs are making it really difficult for me to do my job. That's not really any excuse for you because you are the chief negotiator. You are the head of the recruitment of Manchester United Football Club. You know, everyone else at these other elite clubs, you don't see them sitting there crying about a club being difficult to negotiate with before doing any transfer business whatsoever. You don't see them complain. So why are you? Why are you trying to lower people's expectations of you before you've actually done any business? That's my question to you, John Murtough. Why are you lowering people's expectations of you and preparing them, right, for disappointment before actually completing any businesses? Because these comments were coming out before we completed the Mason Mount deal, when Chelsea were like, oh, Chelsea being unreasonable. Oh, we can't come to a compromise. We'll leave this last bit on the table and we'll walk away. And it's like, well, I mean, what do you want us to say? As you know, as well as everyone else, that Mason Mount was Eric Ten Hag's priority player. So go sign him. Go sign him. Seriously, like, treat it like it's De Jong. Go for holidays in London. I mean, it's not really much of a holiday considering he probably works down there anyway, because that's where our offices are. So, I mean, do whatever you need to do, but actually, like, be busting your ass day in and day out. I mean, what is it that he's also said? Oh, well, he's always active from like 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. or something. Was it him that he that said that as well? Oh, I'm up. I'm constantly doing work. I'm working super hard from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. every single day. Mate, it honestly, it doesn't look like someone who's working from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. It really doesn't. And I'll tell you what as well. I think there's some guy that's quite scared of failure as well. I reckon John's pretty scared of failing because he knows what kind of a fallout he's going to get if he does fall flat on his face. Um, but yes, so but yeah, just as sort of a revisit to thinking HOJLAND's the answer for my number 9. Is that my go-to choice? Probably not. But put back the manager. They always say back the manager, so I will. I'll back the manager. But that's the thing. That's the that I think is the insurance policy for fans that will question the signing or question the decision, and they say, "Oh, well, you should back your manager and back the signings." Okay, okay, have it your way. I'll back this player and I'll back you, but I'll tell you one thing: I've signed this insurance policy here. I've caved into you. I was saying, okay, I'll back this player and I'll back this manager. But if it goes wrong, you can't say that it's anything or anybody else's problem other than the manager, because that's his player, his signing, and his guidance, his progression. I just don't see how ETH sees HOJLAND as a starter in the Prem at his age. That's why I think Kane 2. Rasmus wasn't even first choice at Atalanta. Exactly. And I'll tell you what, I've said this about Eric Bailly, how we spent £34 million on Eric Bailly. And I said this in the last stream. Eric Bailly, at the time of purchasing him for £34 million off of Villarreal, he was essentially the third choice centre back. So he wasn't actually starting games. He was still considered a prospect player or a sporadic first teamer. He wasn't starting games. At least not to my knowledge, because I didn't watch Villarreal at that point. But all I remembered is that he wasn't really recognised as this revelation centre back. All we knew was just he was a young centre back, had a lot of pace to him, a lot of aggression to him. Yeah, loved to leave a tackle in. It's almost like a bit like Christian Romero, almost, in terms of how aggressive they are on the pitch and how much they constantly leave the ground or go to ground in their defensive style. So crazy, rash, aggressive, similar styles to Christian Romero, which, by the way, Tottenham Hotspur. I mean, they definitely, Tottenham Hotspur definitely need some defensive signings, especially after watching them. Jesus Christ! But yeah, I get this point 100%. It's not even first choice at Atalanta. I mean, 9 goals in 32 league games. Like in the league, 9 goals in 32 league games with 3 assists. Listen, that's not that good. Even for a prospect 20-year-old, it's not that good. It's Serie A. If it's in the Prem, I would say, okay, well, he's on the come up and he's in a difficult league. They can take Maguire. If you're referring to Spurs, trust me, I was watching Football Heritage TV when he was doing his watch along, Sava. on there. The amount of people that were in that chat saying, "Oh, do you want Maguire? Oh, go take Maguire." Oh, I mean, to be fair, I was contributing to it. I was saying, "Well, yeah, go ahead, take Maguire. He'll fix all your defensive problems. He'll fix your defensive woes." And literally, Sapa was just the whole stream was pretty much just head in his hands. To be fair, though, there was quite a lot of plebs in that chat as well. Just absolute cretinous comments being made and some opinions that I think could make even blind people cry. And they can't even read no YouTube comments. They can't even have the braille thing where they touch the screen and it's just like, oh, that's what that person's saying in the YouTube comments. I mean, can't even do that. Even then, they'll make blind people cry. It's seriously that a bit of a mess, bit of a mess of a comment section for that stream. But anyways, I suppose there's some similarities as well that I can take away from that first game because I reckon, yes, sure, it didn't pan out so well. They lost 3-2 to West Ham. So, yeah, sure, it didn't pan out too well for them, but I can get some similarities from some of the impatience of Tottenham fans, the same way that some United fans have impatience for Erik ten Hag. And whilst the first season, I was thinking Erik ten Hag, look, as much as he's going to change everything, he's going to switch everything on its head. First season, I'm not expecting anything special. I'm not. I didn't even think top four or even top six. I thought seventh place is probably going to be whereabouts we'll finish. No trophies, nothing. We'll probably get knocked out early stages. So I wasn't optimistic at all. But then again, why would I be? It's one of those. Why would I be optimistic after we factually had the worst Premier League season ever in club history, ever? I mean, there's no reason to think, oh, yes, 100% we'll get top four and win a trophy next season. What? No chance. But yeah, if there's anything I can say for Tottenham fans is be a little bit patient, right, and see where this goes first before you start criticising too much. I absolutely love Erik ten Hag. I think he is the best manager we've had since Sir Alex Ferguson. I'm sort of yes and no with this. I'd say yes, that he is definitely been the most influential manager that we've had since Sir Alex Ferguson. He's changed the most about Manchester United. I wouldn't say he's been the best as most successful, because in our first season we won 2 trophies with Jose Mourinho when he first came in. So he can't be the most successful, but I think as far as influence that he has on Manchester United, Erik ten Hag 100% he's had much much better influence than David Moyes had, than Louis van Gaal had, than what Jose Mourinho or Ole Gunnar Solskjaer had. He's had way more influence, way more ability to change things, and I think he's. Some people are where I'd say a little bit more impatient. Are probably calling out where Ten Hag's been slow to do something like stripping Harry Maguire of captaincy. Now, I personally, I criticised Erik Ten Hag when he came out publicly and said that Harry Maguire's going to be the captain next season. I'm going to back him. I was just like, head in the hands. Oh, Jesus Christ. Why would you say that? Why would you say that? The whole fan base has unanimously been calling for Harry Maguire to be stripped of captain. Give it to someone else. Now, no one really knew who they wanted to give captaincy to at that point. But what he's ended up doing is essentially said, well, Harry Maguire's going to be my captain. Starts the first few games as like, no, I cannot have Harry Maguire playing football. My only question about that is, so if Bruno Fernandes starts starting every game and Harry Maguire is sitting on the bench every game, you can't really sit there and say, well, Harry Maguire's still going to be my captain. But Bruno Fernandes has captained the side way more during the season. And straight away, I think, so couldn't you have just said, well, I'm changing the captaincy now? I'll have the meeting with Harry. I'll sit down with him. I'll have a chat with him and say, well, look, because you can't guarantee game times, I need my captain to be starting every game. But you are about fourth, fifth choice centre back at this club, and it's just one of those situations where, because it has to happen sooner, like, sort it out sooner, right? Don't wait for a, 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 an ideal time, right? Don't wait for an ideal time. Um, to be honest, I agree with Mark Goldbridge on it. I think he's done it well because he took all of his time with the big decisions. He didn't know the dressing room too much to take it off him last season. Um, I could, I mean, as I guess there's an element to it where it's like yes, but also no, because I think I can't imagine that Eric Ten Hag has basically kept his thinking, or where he's basically, when he was still like trialing or doing interviews for the Manchester United job. I mean, um, we saw Ten Hag at Crystal Palace away at Selhurst Park when Ranić was managing his last game. I can't imagine that there was absolutely nobody there that told him, because he'll want to know who the captain at that time was. And someone would have at least said, well, Harry Maguire's captain. So my question is, well, if Maguire being captain at that time, why would Eric have not been told about what Harry Maguire is like as a captain? So, and this is the thing. Surely Eric Ten Hag would have read the room with the fan base as well and listened to what the mood is with the fans, because I'll tell you what, to come off the end of the worst Premier League season that this club has ever seen, there's going to be a lot of noise, and it's not very hard, because I mean, where players can hear all sorts of things that get said about them, the manager, it's not like the manager's doing the Maguire celebration for the whole summer and just be like, well, I could be listening to fans right now, but I can't hear a word they're saying. Well, actually, everyone knew that that everyone had the same opinion that Maguire shouldn't be the club captain. And there were comments about it last season, like punditries were talking about Maguire's captaincy last season. I know there's people that say, well, Harry Maguire without captaincy would probably be a really good player. Personally, I don't think that whatsoever. I think Harry Maguire is he's much like what Jose Mourinho describes as a specialist in failure. He's probably championing one of the highest relegations, or highest number of relegations, um, in a footballer's career at the highest level. So it's just, I think, with the way now, I don't think that maybe Eric's taken what everyone has said and thought, well, okay, so if the situation itself, right, is quite, inflammatory, right, it can, if I stir the pot a bit, um, it might push me out of favour very, very quickly, because maybe Ten Hag, where he said that, well, I don't want Ralph Rangnick as the guy that operates above me, which, by the way, I don't actually think. Some people say that Ten Hag didn't want Rangnick, and I would say he might have said that once in one conversation that decided it. But I think John Murtough, the little shit stirrer, decided to make up Ten Hag's mind for him, because that's the kind of guy that John Murtough probably is. Because he thought, well, Rangnick he gave a tall order. Oh, 10 players out, 10 players in, open heart surgery. Murtaugh's like, well, I've got to do that job as well. Ah, no, I don't want to do 10 players in, 10 players out. No, that's well up beyond my capabilities. So Ralph Rangnick, he knew that Ralph was going to absolutely just expose him. 100%, because Ralph would be doing yes, 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 yes. Job done, job done, job done, job done. Right, where are you at, John? Where are you at? What stage are you at? And John's going to be sitting there panicking at his workstation, just like, I'm trying to keep up, Ralph. I can't work as fast as you. I'm not as qualified. It's probably one of those cases. So he probably thought his job was threatened. Maybe, because the fans, if the fans had seen Ralph Rangnick completely just embarrass John Murtough straight away, the party line would have been towed. Oh, Ralph, John Murtough out, Murtough out. It probably would have been led to that. It probably would have led to that. So, I mean, it's not fact what I'm saying. It's not fact. This is just what I think. I'll read between the lines, and I'll just take some key bits of information away, and I'll sort of construct my own sort of picture to try and make as much sense of the situation as I can. Now, people might take the same information and build a different picture. It's like some people who say, well, Ralph Rangnick didn't stay on because Ten Hag didn't want him there, and they'll leave it at that, full stop at the end of that statement. And that's basically all they will leave it down to. So, but at the same time, as regards to the squad, maybe before Ralph Rangnick left, maybe, just maybe, what's actually happened is Ralph has probably said to Eric Ten Hag, watch out for these players, because they might stab you in the back if you push too hard. So maybe he's taken that one single statement and said, right, okay, so as much as I would be able to just completely flip everything on its head, I might not quite be able to do that just yet. So yeah, personally, I think he's probably just slowed it down a little bit. So he's just taking his time. So he's looking out for his own job, right? That can't be questioned. He's looking out for his own job, but that's absolutely fine, because Ten Hag, he wants to manage a massive club. He wants to keep that job, and he wants to try and serve as much of this purpose as he possibly can. I've enjoyed your stream, mate. Keep it up. Thank you very much for the support. I appreciate it. And big ups to you. Thank you. If you're on the way out as such, then thank you for tuning in, for dropping by and interacting with the stream. It's been a lot of fun. But yes, some United colours. Lovely stuff. But yeah, that's basically just a summarization to wrap everything up about the whole John Murtough, Maguire nonsense, and sort of how Ten Hag has tried to almost battle against the currents to keep everything as stable as possible. And I think he's done a fairly good job at that. He's just kept things as stable rather than letting certain elements punch holes in the ship and just watch that bitch sink into the ocean, So yeah, fair enough. I suppose there's one question that I could probably plot to chat. With Alex Tellers being linked to Saudi Arabia, with Al Nassr being the club, what do you reckon we could command? Like, what sort of a fee do you reckon we can command? I've seen some people, I think it was Mark Goldbridge, has already said that he would be looking to get a 20 million. Try and cheekily bargain on our end of the deal by saying, well, yeah, if you want Alex Tellers, you've got to bid 20 million. I mean, we know Saudi Arabian clubs are, they're filthy rich. There's no doubt about that. But the question is, how sane are they? Will they actually conform to bidding higher values? Now, Shazam here, big ups to you, has said 15 million. I mean, for me personally, as to what I can't remember how much it was that we signed him for. I can't remember if it was 14 million or something that we signed for Alex Tellers. I think I remember it being quite a small fee. Bu- 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 Tennessee United. So yeah, about £15.4 million thereabouts for the fee to Manchester United. So if we were able to generate the same sort of fee, would be a fairly good, probably would be some fairly good takings, to be absolutely fair. Um, about 15 million. I know it's pushing it a bit because it's like, as a prime example, Eric Bailly. I think we've seen probably about the only, I think it's the only sort of public fee or asking price for Eric Bailly that's sort of gone out there and has trended or whatnot. It's about £2 million, and there's already had some brief interest. I think it was from Betis. Had some brief interest. I don't know what's going on that front. Whether there's still any interest in Eric Bailly. Maybe there is. Maybe it's quiet. Maybe there's just some clubs weighing up the options, and they've all had perhaps Eric Bailly is included on a short list of potential centre back targets for them. But yes, Tellers, Eric Bailly, I think you're not going to command big fees for those players. And I think it's just one of those that you just have to cut your losses if you have to. We might end up selling. I mean, we've had, what was it, Fred? A bid from Galatasaray from Fred, about €5 to €6 million. I mean, Jesus Christ. If that's what some clubs think about how much our players are worth, if they think Fred's worth €5 to €6 million, hmm, hmm. If interest starts stacking up for people like Alex Tellers and people like Eric Bailly, maybe the bids will be around a similar level. Maybe we will get like a £5 million bid for Alex Tellers, and maybe we'll get a £1 million bid for Eric Bailly or something ludicrous like that. Someone might try it. Someone might try it. They legitimately might test the waters to see if United consider that bid, or if they just, nah, that's rubbish, absolute rubbish bid that. So they might be tempted to be cheeky with it. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. I don't know what the resolve of Manchester United's going to be in response to a bid about that sort of valuation for these sorts of players, because I don't think the club are interested by any capacity to holding on to players like Eric Bailly or Alex Tellers. They're probably not interested whatsoever in trying to, be difficult with haggling, you know, big money, big monetary fees for these players. So they probably will have very little resistance. But I think it's one of those that they just have to get the bid within negotiable range. So any silly bids, I reckon, I think United perhaps will just shrug it off. But any bids that do tempt the question, who do tempt fate, perhaps, they'll sit down and they'll say, okay, well, it's under valuation, but let's discuss. But yeah, fingers crossed we can actually max out the profitability on. Well, I say profitability. I think it's guaranteed that any players that we have in the squad, we can't make profit off of unless they were academy prospects. So, yeah, any other players, yeah, we're set for a net loss on that one. But yeah. But let's go back to some. Let's go back to some Glazer discussion, some takeover discussion. Let's have a look. Let's have a wee little gander. So yes, Bloomberg are talking about what unexpected news. Okay, what? What? Unexpected news. Now get this. Johnny Evans has signed a short-term deal with Manchester United. This will enable Evans to take part in upcoming pre-season games. Eric has named a 24-man travelling squad for tomorrow's clash with Lyon, including Johnny Evans. So it's a short-term deal until January. What? What? What the fuck? What what do you mean? Why is Johnny Evans here? What do you mean? I mean, he's still better than Maguire. At least that's what I think. But what kind of a deal is that? What, whose thinking is that? I mean, what? Not what? No. What? I'm sorry, but leave your thoughts in the comments in the chat. It means we're not getting a Disassi guy from Monaco. But that's such a weird deal. That's such a weird deal. Up until January. What? I mean, we're not getting Disassi. Well, it's almost as though it's maybe it's a part of conceding that we're probably not going to sell Maguire. Maybe. Or maybe that is Maguire's replacement until January for whatever reason. But that makes no sense. That makes absolutely no sense. I said yesterday, at least I think I said it on stream, that Harry Maguire, they've listed him for 50 million, right? But there's the reports that they reckon, well, realistically, we probably could only get about 35 million. So if you sold Maguire for 35 million, Axel Disassi, right? His asking price from Monaco, I think, is about 35 million pounds. So there's your swap. So you can push Maguire out and say, well, take him for 35 million. Someone's going to do that. Someone will do that. And then you can sign Disassi as the replacement. But where this has come out of left field, and I can't understand for the life of me what the thinking behind that is with Johnny Evans. What was it? There was talk of Everton. There's the clip on that was doing the rounds on Twitter where Everton training, someone muttered into the microphone or muttered close to a microphone and says, "Oh, so Johnny Evans," and everyone was just like, "Oh, right, okay, so Johnny Evans is probably going to go to Everton." But no, he's turned up on United's doorstep, and the deal's done. He's here. Like they've literally they literally did an open and shut case with Johnny Evans. He is here. He is a United player for half a season. What the what? Nah. And oh my God, United stand. What are you talking about? They're saying the king is back. Kiss my ass with the king is back. What in God's name? Apparently Diogo Dalot's back in United training and Malacia is going to miss the tour with an injury. So essentially it's Luke Shaw and Fernandes that we've got at left back. But I just, my head hurts from trying to try and get my head around processing the news that Johnny Evans is back at United. I mean, bloody hell. I don't know what everyone else thinks about that. But what the hell? Seriously, people are trying to make excuses. Centre-back spent over a decade with United, coming through the academy and winning 3 Premier League titles before leaving 2015. We have a Premier League winner in our team still. Shut up. Shut up. It's Johnny frickin' Evans. What do you mean, Premier League winner? You might as well sign Wes Morgan. That's clapped. That is actually clapped. And all the while, Fabrizio Romano has also, 48 seconds ago, just tweeted that Kim Min-jae signs as a new Bayern player on a 5-year deal. There's a picture of him holding up the FC Bayern München shirt in 2028. But we went from potentially going from Kim Min-jae, right, with the release clause, and we've now swiftly moved over to Johnny Evans on a short-term deal. If that does not scream a downgrade and incompetence, I don't know what does. I don't know what does. I can still see logic. Oh my God, Andy Mitten. Andy Mitten, what do you mean? I can still see logic in Johnny Evans being involved at MUFC, helping youngsters, testing strikers, being a backup and showing players his Premier League medals if they become 10 men. What? What are you talking about? What are you waffling on about? But equally, you might want first team football elsewhere. So you can see the logic of him being there because, oh, I can flex my Premier League medals, guys. Look at that. I'm a Premier League champion. Like, fuck off. And then you say, well, you might want first team football elsewhere. Okay, then so you also see the counter logic. What is this about? What is this about? I don't get this. I just don't understand this at all. None of this makes any sense. None of this makes any sense. Yeah, I can't seem to figure that out. I can't get my head around that. That's absolutely ridiculous. But the squad to face I say to face Edinburgh. No, the squad to face Lyon in Edinburgh are as follows. So we've got Bishop, Harrison, and Kovar. Defenders, we have Johnny Evans, Fernandez, Fish, Joado, Jurado, Martinez, Varane, Basaka, Williams, Fred, Gore, Hannibal, Hansen, Aaron, Mainu, Mason Mount, and Donny. So Donny van der Beek is on the joining the squad up in Edinburgh. Forwards, we've got Ahmad Diallo, we've got Anthony that is there, Emaran, Forson, Hugel, and Sancho. So a couple of additions to the squad that faced Leeds. So probably a bit more of a first team foundation, just sort of adding first team into the picture a bit here, I think. And it's fair enough. Damn. I'm watching my playback. It's sticking it in low resolution. Not having any of that. No, sir. No, sir. But it's going to be a bit interesting. So, yeah, Tyrell Malacia will miss tomorrow's game as well as preseason tour in the USA due to injury. So no talks about him potentially missing any games, official games in the season. So I suppose that's one positive. For fuck's sakes, the Fergie era isn't over after all. Man's literally taken a picture of the 2012-13 squad right, and has re-highlighted Johnny Evans. Uh, I mean, some people are seeing the funny side of it, but at the same time, it's like it shouldn't just be like it's one of those where you either laugh or you cry, and I sort of feel like there's more people that should be crying about this than like laughing, because there's genuine centre back targets that we could have signed, but instead, yeah, Johnny Evans is here, and they'll probably use that to say, well, we're not going to sign a centre back this transfer window, guys. Unbelievable, unbelievable. It's a lot of things going on. A lot of things going on. I'll tell you what. Can you imagine what? Throw some random throwaway shock transfers that you could reckon could happen, or speculate for me. Stick in the chat some random deals that that you reckon could happen in the span of a couple of hours for like short term. Or just a couple of name suggestions in there, just to have a bit of fun with the topic. David Ornstein saying that we're holding parallel discussions with Kolo Muani, as well as Rasmus HOJLAND. Personally, Kolo Muani's got a better track record in goal scoring. Then again, he is 24, so he's had more time to do it. Also, what is up with this player that's signed for Al Nassr that looks like Rudiger? Looks exactly like Rudiger. What? It's really, really weird. Really, really weird. Pretty clear by now that John Boy isn't working one deal at a time, in case anyone still thought so. Well, mate, the way that we're prioritizing transfers, sorry, Muppeteers, but you wouldn't stick it to a press release saying, oh, well, we're prioritizing this signing, we'll complete this one, and then we'll start this signing. As soon as you start sticking that out to the public, I'll tell you one thing. By the looks of it, that's what it's exactly what you'd say to the press or the media, to say, well, actually, we talk to multiple people about deals. We'll talk to multiple people about the deals, but in actuality, we're actually only progressing one deal at a time. So it's like there's a summer transfer window is almost working like a chapter, like it's a chapter system. Like really, really weird. But yeah, some people think that we are definitely working on multiple deals at a time. Okay, then we'll sign multiple players at a time. Why did Onana not happen sooner? Why did Dean Henderson not go to Nottingham Forest sooner? Why was David De Gea? Why was the whole transfer window held up with sales and signings with the Onana situation, or the club not knowing who they wanted to sign for a goalkeeper? Because if everyone knew what they were doing, surely that would have meant that you've got several conversations going on at once. You'd be working on players leaving as well as players coming in. That's another thing to state as well. So Dean Henderson, the situation with David De Gea is resolved. Anana's coming in. Dean Henderson, why is he not joined Nottingham Forest yet? Why is he not joined Nottingham Forest? Because everyone knew that he was going to go there for the longest time. That's where he wants to go. That's where United will be happy for him to go. And Nottingham Forest knew for a fact that yes, we want We want Dean Henderson to come in on the permanent transfer. So it's like, okay, so that's just the added to-do list, right? That's just a deal to add to the to-do list. So you know exactly what needs to happen a long, long time before you actually do it. So interesting, very interesting to see that people actually still fully believe that we are being geniuses in the transfer window, and we're multitasking, guys. We are working on multiple deals at the same time, player incomings and outgoings. At the same time, we've also seen the way that which we are handling the transfer business. We are engaging with each process as a step by step. But if we were multitasking, you would see one deal happening, but you also see some other deals happening at the same time. You would probably get a player announcement the very next day, a player's left, or you'll get a couple of players have left. They've gone to transfers to this club and that club, but you'll also see that two players perhaps will sign at the same time. So you could have had Mason Mount come in at the same time as Andre Onana, because David De Gea's contract would have run down anyway. So it's like, well, you can plot where the funds are going to be, or how much funds you're going to have. You know what you want to do with Dean Henderson, so that's a guaranteed incoming of cash. You know what you want to do with other areas. You've got a backup goalkeeper plotted, so maybe Tom Heaton, you can sort out a club for him, or you say Matej Kovar. Well, we can either loan him or sell him. That's no problems at all, and we can then sign Zion Suzuki. That's an easy, cheap deal to do, and it's no struggles. So a goalkeeper situation, if the club actually were multitasking, probably would have been solved by now. The whole goalkeeping situation, everything from David De Gea, Dean Henderson, Andre Onana, Zion Suzuki, Tom Heaton. There's 5 different goalkeepers whose fates would have been sorted out if this club was actually multitasking. But apparently, we are multitasking. But I guess it's everything's sort of disguised. Perhaps everything's it's like it's written in a different language that you don't know, you don't understand, you don't know how to read that language. Perhaps that's what they're doing. They're communicating to us in a language we can't understand. That sounds like, oh, we are doing multiple deals at the same time, but we are not. So the actions, and that's the thing, the actions always speak louder than the words, because PR exists. So they'll tell you what you want to hear, and they'll tell you what you want to know, but the actions will speak louder than words. What else have we got to going on? Who else is talking? Oh my God, the state of that woman I've just seen there. Sorry, guys, I'm having to scroll through the thingamajigs, the Twitter sphere, the mutant platform sphere. Delving for information. So, Harry Maguire to Chelsea links. Maybe there's some legs to it. I mean, I don't know how desperate or depressed Todd Bowley is if he sees Maguire as a good fit, a good fix for Chelsea in the defence. I don't know. I mean, he might legitimately have to do that because, you know, bless him and all, Wesley Fofana, who's I think he's broken his tibia or something, or he's managed to, was it cruciate ligament actually, but his injury situation is really, really bad, where the guy's potentially going to see months up to an entire season out of the game. Up to an entire season. We've barely started pre-season, and a guy could be out until the next season. So it's essentially Chelsea have lost a player, right? They've lost a player for an entire season. Like that. That just sucks. That absolutely sucks. That really, really does. But I feel really bad for Wesley Fofana. Like that's so unfortunate. But for the state that it be that kind of injury as well. Like if it's just a normal injury, it's like that sucks. But but you're lucky that it's during this phase, right, where you'll be able to get back for some big games in the season. No, it's an injury that could potentially rule you out for an entire season. And you've not even kicked a ball. Like, your club has not even kicked a ball in this preseason yet. It's mental. It's absolutely mental. Um, but yeah, there's probably where any Maguire Chelsea links will probably have come from is because Wesley Fofana, terrible injury, um, is going to, they need to search for alternatives. Maybe they join the Disassi race. I'll tell you what, they might. You'll have better luck. You'll have better joy if you go for Disassi. But maybe Pochettino doesn't want that sort of player. Who knows? But can only mean positives for Man United if we do sell Maguire to Chelsea. Can only mean positives. Speaking of that as well, that is a good point as well. That I've just seen. There are some people that want Varane to be sold or replaced. Genuinely, there are people that want Varane to be sold and replaced, and I'm like, I would back your theory if I knew this club was going to sign a world beater, a superstar centre back, the guy that's going to say, well, actually, I command the respect to bench Varane. It's not like Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, where he benched Varane for Maguire, right? It's not going to be like that. Like, if Varane is getting benched or replaced, under any circumstances, you're bringing in a world-class centre-back. That's who the Varane replacement's going to be. We're not going to sign some random name. If you want a Varane replacement and Varane to leave the team and to get out the squad, okay, well, you better hope that this club goes and signs the best centre-back on the planet, or as close to it as they can get. You better hope so, because Varane sets the bar quite high. And I know he's not, always reliable. Sometimes he's injured. He's not always fully fit. He's getting on a little bit. But as far as the level goes, an individual level for Varane, he's still very, very, very high. Oh my God, what is that? Oh no. But it's interesting. Some interesting stuff. But I don't think there is anything else really to discuss, I suppose, with Andre Onana. I guess with Andre Onana, the situation there, I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that what's being mentioned is that about 7 p.m. local time, he will be, well, that's local to England. So GMT, I think it is. Or could be BST because we are about that sort of time. But GMT, 7 p.m., he should be landing in England. And about 7 p.m. usually, if it's like he was landing at 9 to 10 p.m., you'll probably say, oh, well, Jesus, well, he's not going to be able to do a medical until Wednesday anyway. But in actuality, if it's more the case that he was landing slightly sort of mid to late-ish afternoon, you could say there's enough time there to do a medical. There is enough time there to do a medical because it takes about an hour to probably do the full set of tests. About an hour to do this full set of tests and be done by, say, about 8:30. Go chill out for the rest of the day. That's a reasonable time. Go have dinner. Chill out, kick your feet up, relax. Everything else will then kick off again the following day. Maybe that's what they're trying to aim to do. Maybe that's what happens. I'm hoping that's what happens when he touches down in the country.
at 7 p.m. Supposedly, this is what's being mentioned. Um, so fingers crossed that actually follows through. But as to addressing what the deal is, what the fee for Anana, was about 51 million euros up front with 4 million euros in add-ons. So yeah, 44 million pounds plus add-ons. So again, about 47 million pound package deal. So what I said yesterday was spot on. About 47 million pounds on that deal. It was 3 hours ago that the Glazer family expected to decide on a sale imminently or opt to hang on to the club, which, to my logic, would only really make sense for them to sell because there's no clear plan in place for the Glazers to basically serve off everything they need to do. Because that's the thing. The Glazers, under any circumstances, in keeping hold of this club, for whatever reason, you better be ready to spend some fuck ton of money on it. Because you can't not. You can't not spend money on it. And if they do, they might follow into some serious trouble. Who knows? But it makes most sense, at least to me, that they should opt to go with the sale to Qatar. Plus, it's the most favourable decision among the Glazer family, just by sheer calculations, with the siblings favouring the mass majority to opting to go with this club sale. And Joel and Avram can't buy out the rest of the sibling shares, so unfortunately, Joel and Avram, you can't stay whilst the others go. Can't do that. Not possible. Unless Joel and Abram somehow find a way to loan a sort of amount of money. I'll tell you what would be a horrendous thing to do, an absolutely embarrassingly horrendous thing, which would ultimately murder the club. And there's probably a lot of policies in place that would stop this from happening, where the Glazer, Joel and Avram, get a loan to buy the shares off of the siblings, and then use the club's generated revenues to pay off those specific loans. That would just murder the club. That would absolutely kill it. So plus there's probably everything in place to say no, you're not allowed to do that. So and then again, we can't. I mean, cynical business people minds, you don't really know just how far they'll sell their souls out for, to be completely honest. You really don't know just how far they will go. I mean, they're evil people. They are evil people. Absolutely evil. Um, so more to the case in point where Sir Jim was talking about them being nice people. Shut up. They're not. We know they're not. We see straight through that. But aside from that, I think that's everything covered thus far. Obviously, things are set to progress as we get further into the day, into the evening. And we'll probably have some more breaking news, perhaps, or some interesting updates worth covering. Maybe if I do a stream tonight, it's not going to be anywhere near as long as this. Nowhere near as long as this, probably about a 20 to 30-minute stream. Just something that's a little bit sort of short, sweet, interactive at least. If you do opt to show up to that stream, it's up to you. Maybe you'd be interested, maybe you wouldn't. It's entirely up to you. It's the internet. You're free to go wherever you like, even if you go to places where it's completely illegal for you to do so. Who cares? But anyways, I think I shall wrap the stream up there. Big ups to everyone who's tuned in, who's left comments, who's chatted, who's interacted. Big ups to everyone who's liked the stream. And for those of you who have subscribed, if we have gained any subscribers, I don't have a live subscriber count, so I literally can't tell until I get to the other end of the show, basically. A great show. Thank you very much, Sam. Big ups to you. Thank you very much for joining. I really appreciate the interaction. It makes this show a lot easier to do and a lot more enjoyable. Definitely the interaction, because if I just sit and ramble to a camera for an hour or so, I mean, you run out of topics very quickly. You don't get the interactions that you want to have. And actually, if you just do it repetitively, like I mean the previous streams that I used to do, like some of the first streams, I got absolutely no viewership for them whatsoever. They're still sat on about like barely even 10 views. So yeah, then again, um, probably not as good in front of a camera back then as I am now. Because once you start and you don't stop, it's actually you sort of get into the flow of it a bit more, and it gets more enjoyable, it gets more tolerable, and it all sort of clicks, it all falls into place. But yes, big ups to everyone who has joined in and making the stream a nice, entertaining one. It's definitely filled my afternoon with a fair bit of joy, and I wish you all well. And we'll be seeing you again very soon, possibly tonight, probably about after 8 p.m. thereabouts, or after I've had dinner. That is, which is about 8ish or 8:30ish. Um, so yes, we'll probably see you guys again then. Big ups to everyone, and we will see you in the next. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.